The number one biggest way people are wasting money. This one is the most common of all, and one that essentially we're all guilty of. Convenience spending. Here is the data. According to Empower's latest consumer spending research, Americans spend an average of $170 a month on food delivery apps alone. DoorDash, Uber Eats, Grubhub, etc. That is nearly $2,000 a year. But here's what is interesting. According to DoorDash's own research, 75% of Americans, 3 out of 4, most often place a food delivery order on the fly. This means not planned. Not a special occasion, just because. Just because we're too tired. Just because it is so much more convenient to push a few buttons on our phone than prepare something from the kitchen. And the funny thing is, if someone approached you and asked you to hand them $170 in cash every month for food you could have made yourself, most of us will probably say no. But given it is so easy to tap our phones these days, the pain barely registers. And food delivery is just one example. Convenience spending shows up everywhere. The pre-chopped vegetables at triple the price. The same-day shipping upgrade you pay for because waiting 2 days feels unreasonable. The airport food you buy because you're there and hungry. The grocery delivery fee on top of the grocery bill. And I get it. My wife and I are guilty of these as well. When we're exhausted after a full day of work, the last thing we want to do is head to the kitchen to prepare something from scratch. However, if we have serious financial goals, we also have to recognize that these convenience spending, while individually they could feel small, added together can become a significant drag on our long-term financial wealth. So if you find yourself constantly falling for convenience spending and are shocked at how much you spend on DoorDash or grocery delivery the past month, and are serious about changing that habit, let me share a few practical recommendations. One is to plan ahead. The truth is that almost every convenience spending is due to a planning failure somewhere upstream. We order delivery because there's nothing easy in the house. We pay airport prices because we did not eat before we left the house. Thus, the fix here is now willpower. It is removing the moments where convenience spending is your only option. So plan ahead. Keep your kitchen stocked. Eat before you travel. Think one step ahead so you don't place yourself in a position where the expensive choice is the only option. 2. Allow convenience allowance. Zero tolerance rarely works, so give yourself permission to order or pay for convenience where you get maximum value. For example, eating breakfast at home and packing lunch for work, but giving yourself the permission to order delivery when at home 3 times a week. You don't want to find yourself in deprivation mode because they rarely work over the long run. 3. If for some reason you're really having a hard time, go extreme and completely eliminate the temptation. Delete the apps off your phone. Unsubscribe from the same-day shipping service. Remove your saved card from the checkout. Intentionally add friction into the buying process so you aren't solely relying upon discipline to make the best decision. At the end of the day, convenience spending itself is not the enemy. It is spending on convenience without intention, that is. Beware of little expenses. A small leak will sink a great ship. Now, before I get into number 2, I put together a free infographic that summarizes all the spending traps we're covering today, what they are, why they happen, and the key action steps we can take to counter them. It is a single page you can save, reference, and honestly, just share with someone in your life who needs to hear this. The link is in the description below and it is completely free, so please go and grab it. Alright, with that, to number 2. The number 2 biggest way people are wasting money. This one many people forget because as the title states, they are forgotten spending. Here's a quick experiment. Before I give you the next sentence, pause and answer this question for me. How much do you think you spent on subscriptions last month? Do you have it? Good. Now put a pin on that number because we're going to come back to it. CNN Research actually ran a study where they asked Americans to estimate their monthly subscription spending. The average guess came in at $86 a month. Then they asked the same people to go through every subscription they had, line by line, and add it up. What do you think the actual average was? It was $219 a month, a full $133 gap. Every single month automatically. Now let's come back to your number. Do you have a suspicious feeling that you also might be underestimating? As you were listening to this video, were you reminded of a few subscriptions you forgot to account for? Well, don't be so hard on yourself, my friend. As you can see, you're not alone. The brutal reality is that most of us have a hard time estimating our so-called forgotten costs because it is intentionally designed that way. That is the business model. The auto-renew exists precisely because canceling requires effort. The free trial is designed to outlast your attention span. The $9.99 price point exists precisely because it never feels urgent enough to cancel. These companies have invested enormous resources into making sure their product quietly disappears from your awareness, but never from your bank account. For example, did you know that ESPN Plus has the highest paying but not actually using rate of any subscription service in the country? Fascinating, right? According to a CNET survey, the average American spends approximately $1,000 a year on subscriptions. But what is worse is that about $200 of that goes towards services they're not even using. That is $200 just gone. Not to something you enjoy, not to something that improves your life, just gone, silently every single month. Alright, so what are the action steps here? Two very simple ones. One, do a subscription audit. Go through your last 3 months of bank and credit card statements, line by line, and review every recurring charge. You'll likely find things you forgot you signed up for, free trials that quietly converted, and services you stopped using a month ago but never canceled. Do this once, and you'll likely recover $50 to $100 a month within a single afternoon of work. 2. Set a recurring reminder. The audit is not a one-time fix. Subscriptions have a way of quietly creeping back in. A free trial here, an annual renewal there. Put a reminder in your calendar every few months that just says, check subscriptions. That is it. 10 minutes a few times a year, and you'll never let forgotten spending pile up again. And bottom line, the moment you start intentionally assessing where your money is going, you stop being a passive victim of your own spending and start being the one in charge. As Peter Drucker famously said, what gets measured gets managed. The number 3 biggest way people are wasting money: social spending. Essentially, money we spend because other people are in the room. This one is the sneakiest one on the list because unlike the other buckets, it most often does not even feel like overspending when it is happening. It feels like being a good friend, a good parent, a good colleague. And I want to clarify, social spending is not the same as status spending. We'll get to that in a moment. Social spending is more situational. It is money that leaves your wallet specifically because other people are present. Most often, us without even realizing because opting out would feel awkward or unkind. Think about the group dinner where you split the bill evenly, even though you had a small salad and 1 glass of water, and someone also had a steak and 3 cocktails. You pay just because bringing it up feels awkward. Think about the work happy hour you did not really want to attend, but went to anyway, and then felt obligated to spend money on drinks and appetizers because not doing it would feel even more out of place. Think about the kid's birthday party where every other parent signed up for the expensive activity class, and you felt you could not be the only one who did not. And if you value relationships, as we all should, this is a hard one, because the cost is not just financial. Social spending hits you on 2 levels. 1, the financial side is straightforward. You're spending money you did not plan to spend on things you did not really choose in moments where opting out felt socially impossible. And because it happens across so many different contexts, dinners, drinks, gifts, trips, kids' activities, it compounds quickly and quietly. But the emotional side is what makes it dangerous. Because when you consistently spend beyond your comfort to keep up with people around you, something else starts to happen underneath the surface. A quiet resentment builds, which we all know is not healthy. And that combination, the financial drain and the emotional weight, is what makes social spending so hard to address. Alright, so what can we do then? 1, decide before you arrive. The most vulnerable moment is when you're already in the room, the energy is high, and everyone around you is spending. That is the worst time to make a financial decision. So make it before you go. Know your number, know what you're willing to spend. Walk in with a plan, and you prevent the social pressure of having to figure it out in real time. 2, separate generosity from obligation. Real generosity is a choice. It feels good because you're giving freely, not because you felt you had no other option. If you're spending because you genuinely want to celebrate someone or make a moment feel special, that is worth it. If you're spending because saying no feels too uncomfortable, that is a different thing entirely. And it is worth being honest with yourself about which one is driving the decision. Bottom line, recognize that the most generous thing we can do for the people we care about is to show up fully. And that is very hard to do when we're quietly stressed about money. Givers have to set limits because takers rarely do. The 4th biggest way people are wasting their money, the most unfortunate way in my perspective, status spending. Essentially, spending money to buy who we wish we are, not who we actually are. And to be honest, this is the one many people do not want to sit with because it requires a level of honesty that is genuinely uncomfortable. There's a concept in consumer psychology called compensatory purchases. Research out of Cornell University defines it as buying things to signal a version of yourself that you do not actually feel you are. You compensate for an internal gap by filling it with something external and visible. It is a luxury watch that costs 30 times more than a cheaper one that tells the exact same time, bought not for the hour, but you hope for the glance it earns. It is the oversized house in the right neighborhood because you believe the right house tells people you're somebody before you ever open your mouth. It is a new car every 3 years, not because the old one stopped working, but because you want more random strangers to turn their heads on the street. According to Edmunds, the average monthly car payment for a new vehicle hit $750 in 2025. And more than 20% of Americans are now paying over $1,000 a month on their car payment alone. That is a record high. The US Department of Transportation calculates the total annual cost of owning and operating a vehicle at over $12,000 a year. That is more than what many people contribute to their retirement plan in the same period. And the housing version is even larger. Nobel Prize-winning economist Robert Shiller has argued that big houses represent one of the biggest financial wastes in modern life. Not because shelter is not a need, it is, but because the average American home has more than doubled in size since the 1950s, while the average family has gotten smaller. We're buying more space than we use, furnishing rooms nobody sits in, and paying to heat, cool, and maintain square footage that exists mostly to signal something to people who visit. And that really is the main issue. At the end of the day, status spending is not really about the thing. It is all about the audience. The watch for our colleagues, the house for the guest, and the car for the random strangers we drive next to on the road. But the painful irony, which the research consistently confirms, and we all know deep down inside is this, that the audience is barely paying attention. So what to do? Let me share a couple action steps. 1. Before swiping your credit card, ask yourself who you're buying it for. Before any significant purchase, sit with that question honestly. If the answer involves how it looked to others, a neighbor, a colleague, a stranger on the internet, that is worth pausing on. It does not mean you cannot buy it. It means you should know why you're buying it. Clarity alone will change a lot of your decisions. And 2, the most important, define what enough looks like for you. Status spending thrives in the absence of a personal standard. When you have no clear finish line, someone else's lifestyle becomes the default benchmark. And that benchmark will always be moving. Recognize that the most financially grounded people are not the ones who earn the most. They're the ones who decided early what their own version of a good life looks like, and stop looking sideways to measure it. Too many people spend money they haven't earned to buy things they don't want, to impress people they don't like. The 5th and final biggest way people are wasting money: emotional spending. Spending because we're either stressed, bored, or just as the name states, emotional. And this is probably a category that is growing faster than any other category of spending in this video. Why? Because the infrastructure built to exploit it has never been more sophisticated. 20 years ago, if you're stressed or bored at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday, your options were limited. You could eat something from the fridge, watch TV, or call a friend. The ability to spend money instantly on almost anything, deliver within an hour with zero friction, that did not exist at scale it does today. But it does now, and the behavioral data validates this clearly. A 2024 survey found that 44% of Americans admit to buying things specifically to cope with stress or reward themselves emotionally. And a third of Gen Z say boredom, not need, not want, but boredom is the most common trigger for their unplanned purchases. The psychology is obvious because we're all guilty of this. When we're stressed, bored, or anxious, our brain goes looking for an escape. A quick purchase, clicking buy now, opening the delivery app, adding something to the cart, delivers that escape almost immediately. And this is not irrational. It is deeply, fundamentally human. The problem is that this behavior has now been engineered at a level of precision that was not possible before. TikTok shop, Instagram shoppable post, one-click Amazon checkout, DoorDash sending you push notification at 8:45 p.m. because the algorithm detected you have not ordered yet and you're probably tired and hungry. These are not coincidences. These are systems designed to find you at your most emotionally open moment and remove every possible obstacle between that feeling and a purchase. And here's the part that makes this genuinely cruel. It does not even make people feel better. A Motley Fool survey found that half of millennials and Gen Z regret most of their impulse purchases. They bought it and they felt worse afterward. But they'll probably do it again next week because the emotional state that caused it in the first place was never actually addressed. The purchase was never really about the thing. It was about the feeling, and the feeling always comes back. So how to combat this modern beast? Well, here are a few crucial action steps. 1. Build a list of free or cheaper alternatives. Things that genuinely shift your mood but do not cost that much money. A walk, a show that you already own, or my personal favorite, a workout. Emotional spending happens fast, and when you're already in that state, your brain is not creative. It defaults to the easiest available option. If spending is the easiest option, you will spend. If something else is just as easy, you have a real choice. And 2, this really is the most important action. Get to the source of the stress. Stress and boredom are not random. They're signals. Stress usually means something in your life feels out of control or unresolved. Boredom usually means something is missing. Purpose, stimulation, connection. So the real question is not, how do I stop buying things when I'm stressed? It is, what is stressing me, and am I actually dealing with it? Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies growth and our freedom. Thank you guys for watching the theme of spending. If you want to know some flip side, things that we must spend more money on, please check out my video here. Until next time, all the best.